Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for visiting me this day. I wanted to share with you some holidays that are very, very sacred and important, and also a way you can celebrate that through this lunar eclipse and this blood moon. Most of us are focusing on the astrological aspect of things, but there are some that this is not what they're completely focusing on. They're focusing on the celebration of Esther, which is today over here where I'm living, and then also going through the Purim, 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 and that's very, very important because this particular time is along with the blood moon and a full lunar eclipse. It's a very rare time. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of what I found out in regard to Esther. I am very much a person that loves every kind of celebration, of history. I feel like it all goes together because it's very ancient. And I don't ever choose to say this is this or that is that. I choose to do what I'm guided to do by the power of the holy fire energy, which is in all of us, and it increases as we go along because that is purifying your spirit. So I'm going to tell you a little about Esther's celebration, but mostly after this, I'm going to incorporate Purim because that's going to be on our blood moon. I'm going to be doing probably 2 to 3 videos on this, so please make sure that you watch all of them because it's just better that there's not these super lengths, and I want to be able to share them with as many people as possible. And I would actually ask you to please share so that people can understand all our relations everywhere, all peoples, all cultures. This is the most important, always. So in Esther celebration of Purim, it's a time of divine victory. We are going to begin today with a little bit about her. Her celebration marked the moment when she stepped in fully into her divine role. She was choosing courage over fear, faith over doubt, and trust over hesitation. She wasn't born into power. She was actually an orphan, and she was taken into a foreign place and placed in a position that she never expected. You can find her in the Bible. It's really short, but also there's many writings in regard to her. And if you want to look at other YouTube, sometimes you can find the story behind what's going on, more than what I'll be sharing today for the sake of not knowing every little thing about her, but enough to where we can incorporate her because she was a very great woman that supports us in our divine femininity. As I was saying, she didn't expect herself to be placed in the position she was, and that was in the king's court. She was in one of those things where it's the right place at the right time. She had someone taking care of her, as I remember, and he positioned her to be able to be into the palace. She was quite beautiful, and she became the favorite of the king. She became a voice for the people overall, and she was able to stand for injustice and changing the course of history. Many, many times you'll see when a woman is invited into a court and not knowing that she's going to end up in a position where she can have a great influence over the king in a very loving way. This king treated her very well. He loved her very much. And so she became a very valuable wife to him so that they could reign in a beautiful way that would help all of the people at that time. Why am I sharing just a snippet of this? Because it's for us to focus possibly on why it's important to honor her, and also at the same time to remember that We will not always know where we're going to end up. We might be born into places where we don't know how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen. And there's time, divine timing that goes along with these things. I don't really believe she was standing around wondering when she was going to get married. She didn't really have any aspirations to do anything more than the simple things she was doing in her life. But doors opened for her, and the person that was taking care of her positioned her in a way that she was able to step into those places. So I want you to take into account, in whatever position you are, it's not just women. I'm talking about everyone for the most part. We don't know where we're going to go. We hear many, many stories of people that had nothing and they rose to wherever they needed to rise to. Always the key is humility, not aspiring to something, because then our minds get in the way and our hearts cannot access what's truly the most important for us. We want to understand what we're doing a lot of times, but here's the thing with that. Even with the gifts that I have, there'll be times when people want to know why, when, what time, how long is it going to take, give me the exact date. And that's not always the case, because we have to move through certain things in our lives, certain lessons to be able to prepare us. There's many, many stories in the Bible about that. There's many stories in sacred writings, that people didn't get where they needed to go until that moment was important for them. Okay, so how does Esther's celebration connect with Purim and the blood moon? Well, the first one is standing in courage in the face of darkness. She took a risk, because what happened to her is something wasn't going right, and she decided to speak her truth to the king. And much like that, the blood moon reveals what's hidden. The second thing is divine reversal. Just as, our lunar eclipse will shift with lights and shadows, Purim is about miraculous turn of fate. What was meant to harm became a victory. That is what's so great about Purim. And the way that it's lined up astrologically this time, my understanding that it hasn't been done in, eons, since everything is lined up in a perfect way for us to shift and change into truly what's coming from here in the heart, and not particularly here in what we think is going to happen. And then the third thing, again, as I mentioned a few times, is stepping into our true identity. She didn't wait for a sign. She trusted, she surrendered, and that moment appeared to her, and that's the time that she stepped into it. Truth is something that belongs to Michael, Archangel. He is the ruler of that, just like everything else. People will say, well, it's other gods and goddesses as well, but I'm just talking about the angelic realm at this point. He is always there to guide us to what is the truth, how to step in it. Okay, so I ask people to definitely speak to Michael as the first angel, along with your own personal guardian angel. Michael is there right away. He doesn't wait. He doesn't stop. He just acts. I love that about him. So in regard to her, how do you connect with her? Well, you can get a candle. Now, I've been guided truly as a divine channeling as of yesterday that brown was going to be the color. And I thought that's an unusual color, but because it's very earthy and very connected, and since the moon's going to have such a watery effect on us, I am sure that's why they guided me to ask for everyone to use brown. However, here's the thing with brown. It's not easy to find. And at this particular time, I didn't want just a chime candle. I wanted people to use a votive candle. And votives aren't very easy to find anymore. So you can find them in some places. And I just happen to have a whole bunch of brown ones on hand. For me, what happens is if I go in and I see a bunch of different colors, and especially if they're the little votives of this time, I gather them up so that I have them on hand for later. But there's also other colors you can use because there were a few people that were having difficult time getting that color. So you can use other earthy colors. I happen to have this particular color. It is kind of a camel color. You can do that as well. Or I didn't bring the other ones up, but you can use very earthy tones as well, and that will still connect you. I first and foremost would really like you to use the brown if you can find it. It's kind of a short notice, but you know me, I get these channelings kind of at the last minute. So they come right through, and then that's the way I do it. I don't really prepare in advance. I just let the divinity flow through me so that I can give it to you in real time. I also chose this oil. I've chosen this before. I've told you about it. It's got it's got myrrh in it. It's got frankincense in it. It actually has lavender in it. And you can find what you feel is the best for you. But if you don't have this to anoint your candle with, then I've suggested this to you many times. Just get a tiny little bottle of, sacred oil, olive oil. But you don't have to get the great big ones, but just get a little one so that you know that this is all you're going to use it for when you anoint your candle. Okay, so that's what I do for that. Now, an affirmation you could do for Purim and Esther is you can say, and make sure you write this if you'd like, I embrace my divine calling with courage and faith. I trust that even the unseen is working in my favor. Like Esther, I step forward in truth and light, knowing what is meant for me will not pass by. So it is. You know, what came to me just now, and I remembered this when I was reading about her and learning about her, is Esther was not her name from when she was born. That is actually her name that they changed when she went into the palace. She had a different name. And so we only know her as that, but she actually did have her own original name. The thing about this too is when we move into different places in our lives, in many cultures, the name that you had will no longer be your name. You'll be given a different name. That happens quite often when I'm teaching with Native American traditions, very ancient traditions. I don't do a lot of the new ones. And after a certain amount of time, then I'm given the name that I give to the student. And that could change as they have gone on. When I was first in my training such as that, the name changed several times, and now it is what it is. So I would love for you to do that. What you can do if you want to celebrate her is you can get this particular candle. You might have one or two on hand, and remember that candles always represent that light of divinity that's coming and meeting with your divine self. And then you might want to think about, what is my calling? No, please don't get hung up on, I don't know, because that right there is when the mind said, you don't know. We have all of this stuff going around us now, but this is not about, oh, my calling is to be the best coach, or my calling is to, save the planet. The fact that you ask and you connect with yourself every day, that is really what counts. There doesn't need to be a lot of us doing that to actually affect the people even in our own neighborhood. If you simply would say these things, if you didn't have a divine calling, well, you are divine already. So if you just wanted to say, I am divine and I share my divinity. If you just wanted to say that, that's what she did. And that's what I always encourage people, because once you start saying that very quietly to yourself, you'll start feeling the energy in here, because the heart always leads. Never the mind. I know we have this big thing of mindset, okay, but think about how we're saying that. It's mindset. Well, setting is not going anywhere. The heart is always giving to the body. It's always circulating. It's always replenishing. And that's what's important. So as you drop down into that heart space, and you just even put your hands over your heart, your left and then your right, and it's kind of like in your high heart, then, and you just rest in that. Even if it's a few moments and you're just breathing, that is a prayer, because you're embracing the divinity within you. Okay, so that's going to be this little video. I'm going to do number 2. It's going to be in regard to Purim and the angels and how to connect and who you want to connect with. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in a moment.